Welcome back. What happens when Africans begin fleeing another African country in search of safety? That is a difficult question once again confronting the continent as Nigeria prepares to receive another 315 citizens evacuated from South Africa. The latest flights will bring the total number of Nigerians evacuated to 1,426, highlighting the scale of a crisis that has reignited concerns over xenophobia, migration, and the future of African unity. The federal government has confirmed that the fifth and final evacuation flight from South Africa is expected to arrive at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos after departing Johannesburg in the early hours of Wednesday. Operated by Air Peace, the aircraft is carrying 315 Nigerians who requested assistance to return home following growing fears over anti-foreigners protests. The latest evacuation marks the conclusion of a rescue operation that began on June 11 after Nigerian authorities received distress calls from citizens stranded in South Africa. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, hundreds of Nigerians sought government assistance amid fears sparked by nationwide demonstrations organized by the March and March movements. WAS members reportedly called for the expulsion of foreign nationals, particularly fellow Africans. With the arrival of the final group, the figures paint a striking picture. Before these flights, the federal government had already evacuated 1,141 Nigerians. An additional 66 citizens returned through arrangements made by a private individual, while another 39 were transported through separate Air Peace arrangements. The latest 315 passengers will bring the overall number of evacuees to 1,426.
The repatriation is on course. Mr. President himself has reiterated the fact that this aircraft must come to South Africa, and our citizens who are imperiled will have the chance of getting on this aircraft to be brought back to their country.
The evacuation itself tells only part of the story. The larger question is why so many Nigerians felt they had no option but to leave South Africa. For years, Africa's two biggest economies have maintained strong diplomatic and commercial ties. Thousands of Nigerians have lived, studied, and worked in South Africa, contributing to businesses, healthcare, education, technology, and other sectors. Yet, recurring outbreaks of xenophobic violence have repeatedly strained those relationships. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through its spokesperson, Kimebi Imomotimi Ebafiena, confirmed that the final evacuation flights will depart Johannesburg at approximately 1:30 a.m. before arriving in Lagos around 6:30 a.m. Nigerian officials say the operation was organized to ensure that citizens wishing to return home could do so safely. The president of the Nigerian Citizens Association in South Africa, Reverend Frank Onyekwelu, also confirmed that those scheduled for evacuation had been contacted and instructed to assemble at the Nigerian High Commission in Johannesburg before departure. According to him, the affected citizens were informed in advance to facilitate an orderly evacuation process. But beyond the logistics lies a much deeper issue. Why does xenophobia continue to resurface despite repeated diplomatic engagements between African governments? And what does it say about the dream of African integration under initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, which aims to promote closer economic cooperation across continents? South Africa has experienced several waves of anti-foreigner violence over the past 2 decades. During different periods, migrants from Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Somalia, Ethiopia, and other African countries have reportedly attacks on business, homes, and communities. Critics argue that economic hardship, unemployment, and competition for limited opportunities often fuel resentment against foreign nationals. Although many analysts caution that these factors do not justify violence or discrimination. For Nigeria, each outbreak presents both a diplomatic and humanitarian challenge. On one hand, the government must ensure the safety of its citizens abroad. On the other hand, it must manage relations with one of Africa's most influential countries while seeking lasting solutions through dialogue rather than confrontation. The latest evacuation is therefore more than a transportation exercise. It is also a reminder that thousands of Africans continue to face uncertainty while living outside their home countries, even within the continent itself. Many of those returning to Nigeria are expected to rebuild their lives after leaving behind jobs, businesses, educational opportunities, and personal investments. The situation also raises broader questions about the future of labor mobility in Africa. If professionals, traders, and entrepreneurs fear for their safety when moving across borders, could that undermine efforts to create a more integrated African economy? Can the continent achieve deeper cooperation if recurring tensions continue to drive people back to their countries of origin? For the returning Nigerians, the immediate priority is safety, but for policymakers, the challenge extends much further. Preventing future evacuation will require addressing the underlying causes of xenophobia, strengthening protection for foreign nationals, and promoting cooperation between African governments. As the final evacuation flight touches down in Lagos, it will mark the end of one rescue operation. Yet, it may also signal the beginning of a much larger conversation about migration, security, economic opportunity, and the responsibilities African nations owe to one another. The images of hundreds of Nigerians returning home should prompt more than sympathy. They should prompt reflection. If Africans cannot feel safe in other African countries, what does that mean for the continent's vision of unity, shared prosperity, and free movement? That is a question that will remain long after the last evacuation flight has landed. What are your thoughts on these developments? Should African governments be doing more to protect the rights and safety of fellow Africans living across the continent? Share your views in the comments below. If you found this report informative, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analysis of the biggest stories shaping Nigeria, Africa, and the world. I'm Chidera Eson. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next report.